Welcome to part 3 of the series. In this series we are building a Python game using the Pygame module. In this part we'll be initializing a basket, enabling movement to a basket, and we'll see how to record scores. First let's start by displaying the basket. Like I had shown in the previous video, we can get a .png image from the website. I'll have the link of the website in the description below. Basket.png, I have already downloaded this. The properties are it's 125 pixels wide and 126 pixels in height. So let's just place it inside the game folder along with our basketball png and game.py. Let's initialize the basket here as well. Now we need to initialize the position in which the basket appears. Let's keep the position names as basket pos x and basket pos y. Let's set these values to 450 and 600. 450 is the x position, which is slightly lesser than the width of the screen because we are accommodating the width of the basket as well, which is 125. And 600 is a proper y coordinate measurement in which you can place the basket. Let's also mention the width of the basket. Now let's display the basket in the function below. Let's display the basket in show images function itself. Let's run the game and see if the basket is being shown. As you can see, the basket is visible, but due to the background color it's not completely visible. Let's just change the background color to white and let's see what happens. We change the color fill here, screen fill as white. Now let's observe the game again. As you can see, the basket is appearing properly. Now let's enable movement to the basket. We will no longer be enabling movement to the basketball, so let's just comment out these lines over here. Let's modify these lines itself to accommodate the basket. We need to initialize them as global. Let's do that as well. Let's check if the code works now. As you can see, the code is working fine, but the borders are not being enforced for this. Let's fix that right now. We'll just include the conditions to enforce border for the basket as well. Let's initialize all these variables as global as we did previously for other variables. Now let's check if the changes have been implemented in the game. As you can see, the borders are being enforced for the basket as well. To record scores, as when the basketball falls inside the basket, we need to have a certain set of representations for the basket as well as the basketball, and check if the representation of the basketball is in the representation of the basket. I'll explain this more in detail using an image. So this is a screenshot. So as you can see in this image, we take the midpoint of the height of the ball and the width of the ball, and that is the representation of the ball. And we take a region to represent the basket. We take two lines which represent the height difference region of the basket and two lines to represent the width difference region of the basket. And when the ball representation point is inside this point, which we will call as the score region, when the basket ball representation point is inside the score region, the score is incremented by 1. And if the basketball representation region passes this region, we reset the score to 0. So before that, let's visualize these lines in the code. Let's first draw the lines for the basketball. So here what we've done is we've used the Pygame draw line command. The parameters which you're passing to the Pygame draw line command is the surface where we want to draw, which is the screen, the color of the line which we want to draw, which is black, the starting point of the line, which is x plus 50, 0, and the ending point of the line, which is x plus 50, screen height. So we get a line up from the top of the screen to the bottom of the screen following the x position of the basketball. Let's repeat the same process for the y position of the basketball as well. We have done the same for the y position of the basketball as well. this line is going to be drawn from the zeroth position of x coordinate to the end of the screen, which is the screen width. Let's just see if this reflects in the game. As you can see, this is being reflected in the game. We are now representing the basketball by a single point. To represent the score region for the basket, we need 4 lines. The 2 lines will be to represent the difference in x coordinate, and 2 lines will be to represent the difference in y coordinate. Let's do that right now. So these are the 4 lines which we are drawing. For the x coordinate, what we've done is we've taken the basketball position and we've added 31 and 94 to it. These two numbers represent the 25% mark and the 75% mark of the screen width. And for the y coordinate, we've just added 14 and 20 because they looked appropriate with the image of the basket. You can change it as required. Let's just see if these changes have been reflected in the game. As you can see, these changes have also been reflected in the game. Before moving to the next part, let's first initialize the ball representation point and the basket representation region. So the variables for the ball representation region will be ball rep x and ball rep y. The variables to represent the basket score region will be 2 lists, and the variable names of the lists will be basket rep x and basket rep y. So the way these lists have been initialized is the first term shows the starting of the x region, while the second term shows the ending of the x region. The same goes to the y regions as well. While we are here, let's change the speed of the basket to make the basket slightly more faster than the ball. As you change the speed of the basket, we'll have to make the changes in the check for event function as well. Now let's create a function called check for score to check if a basket is being made or not. For that, we'll have to create a variable called score first. Let's initialize score as a global variable. The logic which we are going to use here is if the x of the ball representation is in the range of x coordinates of the basket x representation region and the y representation of the ball is inside the y representation region of the basket, we increment the score by 1. Let's just put that as an if condition. The logic behind resetting the score is if the x coordinate of the ball representation is not in the x coordinate of the basket region, then we reset the score to 0. Let me just minimize this. For now, let's just print the score in the terminal itself. We'll display the score on the screen in the next part of the video. For this, let's create a function called as show score. Here we'll only be printing the score. Now let's call the check for score function in the while loop. Now let's check if the program is working as desired. Something seems to be wrong. Nothing is being printed on the terminal. This is due to we are not calling the show score in the check for score function. My bad, sorry for that. For some reason, the score is not being updated. Let's just check that out. The reason why this is happening is we are just updating the lines, but we are not updating the actual representation points. So let's just do that right now. To do that, let's just copy those variables. Let's copy these 2 lines to the show image function. Let's initialize these variables as global as well. We also see that the ball rep x and ball rep y have been miswritten. Let's just correct that. These have to be x plus 50 and y plus 50. Now let's copy these two and put it in the update ball pause function. Let's initialize them as global variables as well. Once these changes have been made, let's now check if the game works fine and if it records the score properly. Let's clear this out real quick. And as you can see, the score is incrementing when we catch the ball, and it resets to 0 if you fail to catch the ball. So this concludes the third part of this series. In the next part of the series, let's put in a background image and bring up the score on the game screen. See you in the next video. If this video helped you, please do like the video and subscribe to my channel. Thank you.